for the big broadcast.
We're not professional podcasters.
Say what?
We barely know what we're doing,
It's funny because it's true.
but we have fun anyway.
I'm here to podcast.
Does everybody know what time it is?
We're going streaking! Yeah!
No, we're not. It's time for movies, pop culture, and more with the all-new Culture Cast, starting now. I'm Nick, and this is the all-new episode of the all-new Culture Cast. And with me tonight is a very special guest host, the person who tells me what I do wrong in the kitchen, also known as my wife.
The Kiwi!
Hey, Kiwi, welcome to the podcast. Thank you for being here.
It's great to be here.
Now, you've been a long-time listener of our show,
I have.
only because you're married to me.
This is true. If I didn't know you, I wouldn't listen to your podcast. Let me rephrase that. If I wasn't married to you, I wouldn't listen to the podcast.
Aww. Well, that's unfortunate, because it was because of you that we got Jennifer involved in the podcast.
This is true. It is.
She was your friend who Gorehound became fast friends with and invited her onto the show. So, anyway, tonight we have we're doing something a little bit different that we haven't done on this show before. The Kiwi and I got married this past summer, and we went on our honeymoon this past October 2016. We went to Ireland. So we are going to do a retrospective look at our vacation in pretty much all of Ireland there. So we have so much to talk about. I don't think we'll do our typical segments as we've done in the past, like what you've been watching and whatnot, and kind of just jump right into it. Does that sound good?
Wait, I would like to do one normal, regular segment.
What's that?
Well, you know, Gorehound has his man crush of the week, and I would also like to do man crush of the week.
All right, that is your favorite. I think that's like a favorite segment of like the three people who listen to this show.
Probably, and I get super disappointed when the Gorehound does not have a man crush. I don't think he realizes how much I listen to the podcast just to hear who he's going to pick out.
We should have the man crush at the end of the episode so people like stick with the whole thing.
They're like, I heard about you two, I'm done.
Yeah. I guess a download's a download, but whatever. So,
right.
So, Kiwi, who is your man crush of the week?
Well, it probably won't come as any surprise to you, but Aaron Rodgers is my man crush of the week.
And why is Aaron Rodgers your man crush?
Well, under, normal circumstances, he is great. However, the Packers were on such a losing streak, but, last week and this week, Rodgers pulled out some great moves, and I think it's worth mentioning that he's back on his, greatness, not his, 4-week losing streak, which was just horrific. So props to Aaron Rodgers for getting back on track. And he's my man crush this week, and, most likely probably next week too.
Now, we should say, for people who are keeping track at home, we are recording this episode the first weekend in December.
Oh, yes.
So who knows, by the time this episode goes up, probably won't be until after the holidays. But
they might be on their losing streak again.
yeah, things might be changing. So people are listening, it's like, why is she like Aaron Rodgers? He's the worst. But just for as of now, he seems like he has his game back together.
Correct.
So, alrighty. Any other segments or things you want to bring up for this week before we move on?
I'm good.
Okay. Well, I guess what we are going to be talking about tonight is our trip to Ireland, which we took October 7th through the 15th of 2016. I guess, do you want to go a little bit into why we decided to do it that week as opposed to right after when we got married back in July?
I'm not sure we have like a solid answer other than we didn't want to go right after the honeymoon, and October seemed like a good time to go.
Yeah, that was pretty much the answer that I was thinking of too. People said the weather was good during that time. I know we were originally thinking about going in the winter time for our honeymoon, but
I'm glad we didn't.
yeah, I concur on that one. So we got a good time, and we got I think a fairly good deal with our trip and everything. Props to my late father, who had a ton of frequent flyer miles built up, which we were able to utilize for the plane ride, so that was nice. So
Yeah, it really helped make the trip more affordable.
yeah. So I guess where do you want to begin with everything? You put together a very nice, very detailed outline of a lot of stuff we can talk about. What
I did. I put together, it was like 6 pages.
It was 6 pages. And we were sitting down there about a half hour ago, and you're asking me like specific questions on specific days of stuff we were doing. I'm like, I don't remember. And like I was surprised how detailed you got it, which I guess is good because we could talk about a variety of things.
I would just like to say part of the reason I like doing this podcast is because so many people, like our friends and family, have asked us, so how was Ireland? And you're like, the short answer is, it's great. And this podcast is going to be the long answer because there's so much to say. As you're going to know, this podcast is probably going to be a lengthier one. You know, you can't say, how was your trip to Ireland? And, you know, unless you plan to visit someone and sit down with them and talk forever, you know, you can't walk up to like just, you know, have a quick conversation with someone. It was great.
Right. No, you're totally right. Like sometimes when people ask me, I'm like, I don't know what to say. It's like, it was fun. What'd you do? Stuff. Right. I mean, it's like,
I know.
I don't know how to like just narrow it down necessarily to give someone a satisfying answer. So
right. You're like, I kissed the Blarney Stone. End of story.
Yeah. Right. So okay, where do you want to begin? I mean, I know you wrote down some highlights here at the top of your list. You want to start there? Or you just want to go chronological order?
Yeah, we can go chronological order, and then I can throw in. You can mention some of the highlights too.
Okay, sounds good to me.
Some of the themes we saw and so forth.
So we were there for 7 days, or is it 7 nights, 8 days?
Yeah, 7 nights, 8 days.
And we left Chicagoland area at I think the flight left. It was 8 or 9 o'clock at night. Or am I wrong?
Yeah, it was somewhere around there. Yeah.
So we did that because we would get into Dublin on the morning of the 7th or something. So we would have essentially the full day ahead of us. Which
we got there the morning of the 8th.
Oh, morning of the 8th. Oh, because the flight left on the 7th.
Mm-hmm.
Though I'm not going to lie, the dates of everything when we were there, I was so confused because of time change that I just kind of it was just to me day 1, day 2, and so forth.
Right.
So we started off in Dublin. We basically went through a whole circle throughout the country and wound up back in Dublin at the end. So saw the highlights of the country there. But yeah, the first day we went to Guinness. Yeah.
We did. I would just like to say I wanted to talk about the airport.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Because I have not flown a lot. I was a little leery on all the security measures that were going to happen because I flew for the first time just back in 2013, right? Shortly after we started dating. And, you know, I remember like having to take off your shoes and everything. I'm like, oh my God, it's going to take forever. And leaving O'Hare, we did not have to take off our shoes. You did try to take off your wedding ring.
Well, they said take like jewelry off and whatnot, and I just assumed the ring was
No.
You
asked if you had to take off jewelry.
Oh. Well, I know I had to take off
like
a watch.
It's always the men trying to take off their wedding rings.
Yeah.
But I was actually impressed how smooth security was leaving O'Hare.
Yeah, it really was. Like we flew through, I don't know if we just got the right time of day or whatnot, but the small amount of time that we were in line, we just kind of flew through it.
Yeah, well, that was another thing too, is you didn't have to empty out anything from your bag, you know, because like a couple of years ago, you had to, you know, your quart of liquid, you know, you had to place on the belt, you had to like take off your shoes. They did make me take off my jacket, but you know, you could leave everything in your bag, which made it so much easier just getting through security.
Yeah. And how many times do they make announcements about the Samsung Note 7?
You know, I don't recall in O'Hare, but I do remember in Ireland when we were leaving, they brought it up several times.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
I remember on the plane they mentioned it. I thought maybe when we were checking in they said something, but...
Yeah, I don't think they wanted it in bags.
Yeah. Maybe
But
that
they didn't
was
really
it.
want it on your carry-on. But I think if you brought it on the plane, they were going to take it up front with them so they could keep an eye on it. I don't know. They didn't really say because they were like, come speak to us if you have the Galaxy Note 7. So FYI, if you have one and you're trying to fly, you may have a little problem.
Yeah. Well, hopefully no one has one anymore, but you never know.
Yeah, you never know.
So,
And then on the plane, we had the middle seats, which the guy sitting next to us apparently did not want to sit next to us, so he moved up a row where he was by himself, and then shortly he was not.
yeah, so we had the whole row kind of to ourselves, which was nice.
Yes. And sleeping on the plane proved more difficult than what I thought.
I think I was get a couple of hours of sleep, but it wasn't the
I think
greatest.
I slept 2. I think you slept more like 4,
Okay.
which made it very difficult for the first day.
Yes, I was... Was it the Guinness factory where I was just dragging there towards the end?
Yeah, I actually have a picture of you like sitting on the floor with your eyes closed.
Thanks, I didn't know you took that picture.
Oh, that I don't have one.
Anyway, so the flight itself was fine.
Yeah.
They-
Yeah, there was a little turbulence.
Yeah, and we didn't know how to use the headset speakers the entire time until we were about to land when we saw there were 2 plugs
know.
in.
Yeah, because we were only getting sound in one ear, and there was like, it was a 2-prong headphone that you plugged in. We thought, or we didn't realize there was 2 prongs for the headphone. We just saw the 2 prongs that you could plug into.
Mm-hmm.
So we're like, why are we only getting sound in one headphone? And then as we're about to land, we figured it out.
We're Americans. We're intelligent.
Or we're just, not seasoned flyers.
Apparently, I remember when I used to go on the airplane, it just was one plug or one prong. I don't know when they changed that. Or maybe that's just the thing of the airline. Aer Lingus.
Yeah,
flew
Aer
on.
Lingus. I mean, the only time I flew was down to Florida, and it was like a 2-hour flight or something like that. So I wasn't
Yeah.
on the plane that long.
Yeah. So, we landed in Dublin, and the group that we were with, like we should say, we were on our own, but we were traveling with a specific tour. Like we booked it through a tour group, and so that tour group welcomed us and all the other people who were on vacations going to Dublin through them. Welcomed, they got everyone together and took us to the hotel. So, I mean, they're very friendly, very nice. They picked us up and drove us to our first hotel, which was a very modern-looking place.
It was. It was also handicapped, which we did not realize till we were at the next hotel when we realized we had a handicap
We
room.
had the handicap room, yeah. Which, we saw there was another couple kind of on their own, not with the giant tour group, and the lady was wheelchair bound primarily, I believe. I think she had crutches or a walker she could also use. And we almost wonder if somehow the rooms got mixed up, but I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, just because they have handicap rooms doesn't mean that non-handicapped people can't use it, because I think they were trying to keep everyone, like, in that tour, near each other.
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard to say. I guess we should also tell our listeners that this tour, it wasn't a group tour. It was an independent tour that it was kind of like, these are options you can do this day. You can pick what you want, but you got to stay in this hell that night.
Yeah.
So,
one thing, speaking of going back to the bathroom there, one of the things that was interesting is that there were, and this was in every single hotel, I think, there were no outlets in the bathroom except for like a men's razor.
Yeah, and I should also mention 2 of my coworkers. One is from Ireland, and the other one is firstborn generation in America. Their parents are from Ireland. And I'd asked the man why there were no outlets in the bathroom, only the men's razor. And the only explanation he could come up with was that the outlets are so powerful that you would not want to get water near them. Like, it was a very dangerous thing.
Oh, that's good.
That's the only... Yeah, so that was the only reason he could come with why they were in there, which... I mean, I have actually curly hair, and I decide to wear my hair straight for most of the week to, for ease. of convenience, and it made it very difficult when we were in that handicapped room because there was no outlets near the mirror.
Mm-hmm.
So I was forced to straighten my hair and then walk over to the mirror to make sure I did it right. That was the most challenging thing of that handicap room. But I mean, we didn't know it was handicapped till we got to the next hotel room and we were like, oh, that's why that room looked that way.
Yeah.
Because we had this special shower.
Yeah. It was
where I
pretty
left my soap.
So the first thing that we did that day, because we decided not to take a nap, we were going to power through, and we decided to check out the Guinness storeroom, which is the big Guinness plant / gift area, I guess you want to call it, that the beer company has, because they're based out of Dublin. And what a great idea that we went to do that. One, we got to take the tram, which is actually pretty cool. It's like think of the L that Chicago has, but way nicer and classier.
And here's the kicker. You buy your ticket at like a little kiosk, and you get on the tram, and they don't collect your tickets.
It's honor system.
It's the honor system, and there was a sign that said they found out 90% of people are honest about buying their ticket. And I was like, that would not fly in Chicago.
Oh my God, no.
I mean,
you'd have bums on it all the time.
Oh, yeah. Holy cow, no. But yeah, it was very smooth, and it was actually cool being on the tram because you got like a tour of Dublin without being on like an official tour.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And Dublin's kind of a neat little town. It's like a lot of cobblestone roads and very old school that they try to modernize, but you can't shake the style of how it used to be way back in the day. And it was kind of cool. I like that. I like the look of it. Very hipster. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Super
yes,
hipster.
I would definitely say hipster. Although, like, I think there is like a more newer part and a more like hipster part. Like it almost seemed like there was two sides to Dublin.
Right.
Which is like two sides to Chicago too. So.
Right. I feel like we ran into like a lot of hipstery. I can't talk. I feel like we ran into a lot of the hipster stuff, but I was really thrown by that. I'm like, wow, I didn't realize Dublin was a local hangout for hipsters. But okay. But so we got lunch at a local place where you maintain was the best ham and cheese sandwich that I ever had.
And for me to say that, I don't really like ham and cheese sandwiches. And when you ordered your ham and cheese sandwich, I was like, well, that's kind of a boring thing to order. But, oh, my God, there was nothing processed about it.
Yeah. It was fresh.
It was fresh. The bread, the cheese, the meat, you couldn't find that in America. I mean, I've had, like, the gourmet ham and cheese sandwiches. It tasted nothing like that. It was amazing. I ordered like a salmon salad, like a smoked salmon salad. It was okay, but it was nothing to write home about. I would have picked your ham and cheese sandwich over my salad.
I'm sure the barflies that were there were like, what are these idiots? It's just a ham and cheese sandwich.
I know.
So we went to the Guinness Brewery, and it was interesting. It was a self-guided tour.
Yeah, I don't think we got the full experience. Like, I wanted someone to take me around and explain everything. Instead, we were forced to read signs. And when you're jet lagged, it's not the most exciting thing to do. Mm-hmm. But visually, it was very pretty. I will give them credit for that. And for a self-guided tour we were there like a couple hours. There was a lot to see.
Yeah.
It's just, I wanted someone to explain to me exactly how they made the beer, not read about it so I don't fall asleep.
Yeah, especially since we were battling the jet lag, and yeah, me more so than you, I believe.
Yeah, which is surprising because you slept more than I did.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I was just having trouble getting adjusted to it. But so I mean, a lot there, and they have a giant souvenir area. And one of the things that you purchased was an exclusive mug, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, put quotation marks around exclusive.
What's the story behind this mug?
Yeah, it was, first off, I love coffee. and I want to bring back a mug. And this one said, sold exclusively at the Guinness store. So, of course, I'm like, well, I, got to buy this mug. Because when you go to the Guinness store, you can't just walk off the street. You have to be part of the tour to go into it. So it's not like I could change my mind later on. So I was like, okay, I'm going to buy this Guinness mug. And we saw the same mug almost every single day at another just random, gift shops. But the sticker was removed that said sold exclusively at Guinness. So I'm not sure if they worked out a deal with Guinness or if they literally just walked in there, bought a whole bunch of mugs, and then, put it on their shelf. I don't know the story behind it, but no, it was not sold exclusively at Guinness. They lied.
But I'm glad we did do the Guinness tour that day. To give a little background, we were given vouchers for a couple of things to do during our stay in Ireland, and one of them was going to Guinness. The voucher is only valid for that day. And if we didn't do it that day, then we'd have to, or if we did it on a different day, like we came back to Dublin a week later, then we would have to pay for the ticket. And we almost decided to do that before we decided, no, let's just go today. And it's good that we did, because the line to go into this thing was literally around the block. And
it was.
Yeah, and when I walked up to them, we have a ticket. Do we need to stand in line? They're like, nope, go right on in. So I remember I ran to go back and get you because you stayed in line while I checked it out. I'm like, come on,
right.
let's go. And we just cut right in front of the line, only to get into another line to actually get into the place. Which, that one went by pretty quick, though.
Really? I thought it walked into the Guinness storefront.
Well, we walked inside there, but then there was a line for us to, if you had your tickets already for...
Oh, that's right. There was 2 people ahead of us or something, right?
Yeah.
Which went really fast.
Yeah, it went fast. It was just, checking you in, so it wasn't anything major. But if we didn't do that, and we tried to do it the following week, we would have kicked ourselves.
We would have. I think we were probably actually more exhausted on our last day in Dublin than the first day.
You're probably right on that. So... after the Guinness storefront, we took a horse and carriage ride because they were selling them right there. And
oh yeah, there must have been at least 20 horses just lined up outside, with carriages.
Yeah, and so they took us down through downtown Dublin to one of the main touristy shopping areas. And I would say Dublin is, of all the cities, Dublin was the most commercial. Is that a good way to put it? All the others were very sleepy, small town type areas, and the horses and carriages going through. And I see on your notes you put down here that the streets of Dublin are totally wacky, totally unorganized, because they keep changing names every 5 feet.
They do. There's no you've never appreciated Chicago's grid system more. They curve, they stop. The names only last a couple blocks. It's not Randall Road, which goes through many, many towns, here in Illinois. But no, it's confusing.
Yeah.
I'd also like to say, with my love of coffee, not intentionally, but we stopped at Starbucks. Because I had to use the bathroom. So my first real coffee stop in Dublin happened to be Starbucks. But I noticed a theme. So I was like, I'm just going to get a coffee. So I go up there. I'm like, I'd like a, coffee. And the cashier pauses for a moment, and he goes, Americano or filtered? And I was like, oh, filtered. Not knowing that black coffee basically translates to Americano over in Ireland. It was very hard to get black coffee, because I'd be like, oh, get a coffee, and I'd be like, okay, and then, I'd look at the receipt, and they put down Americano, and I was like, oh, because they wouldn't even sell the filtered coffee. They would just have Americanos, which for listeners who don't drink coffee, Americano translates to espresso and water. So it's a similar taste, but it's still different. I mean, it gets the job done. I know some people prefer, obviously, Americanos over the traditional filtered coffee, but I prefer filtered. There you go.
dinner that night, just a local restaurant in Dublin. It was nothing great. I think we were having trouble getting a seat at that place, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, we ended up sitting at like the
like
bar.
a pseudo bar, and we had a
Yeah.
waitress that didn't know what she was talking about when it came to directions.
She was so sweet, but we were asking her how to get back to the tram, and she kept telling us, well, I live over in this area, which was not by the hotel. I mean, it was like on the same side of town, but it wasn't like it was close. She's like, you could just walk, but we're like, but how do we get to the tram? And then she, was thoroughly explaining like how to walk there. So we both just agreed, okay, thank you. And as soon as she walked away, we turned to each other. We're like, we're taking the tram, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we figured it out because we had a map with us that was actually pretty
detailed.
Pretty detailed, yeah, and easy to read. So it was like, oh, we just go up this way and followed it through. And I think that was like a Saturday night. And Saturday night in Dublin, people are out and about, and yeah, everyone's friendly, everyone's nice. No reason to worry yourself. Like if you're out and about in the downtown Chicagoland area, not that that's dangerous, but there's some heightenedness of awareness that you have. So I was never really worried about anything when I was in Dublin.
No, I wasn't either. And props to you for being able to follow the directions in the dark. I mean, it's one thing during the day we can kind of like recognize things, but when you're in a new town and it's dark and you're trying to read a map how to get home, I was lost. You're like, it's this way. I'm like, okay, and we're right. You got us to the tram, and we were the last stop. At least we didn't have to worry about going
easy.
too far, because the tram was literally outside our hotel.
Yeah, which was nice.
Yeah,
the main thing, they had like key things listed on the map, like Trinity Schools right here, and like, there's a sign for Trinity Schools, so we gotta turn this way now. So
yeah, that was nice.
So it helped out. But well, let's the following day, we left Dublin and we got a car. We rented a car, and I wound up driving on the opposite side of the road for the duration of the rest of our trip. And
how was that?
It was fun. Driving itself wasn't too hard. The most difficult part was that the roads are incredibly narrow, and there's no shoulders. There's no shoulders,
except when you're on their version of the interstate.
Right. Yes. And it was challenging in that aspect. Fortunately, we also decided to pony up the cash for a GPS. So that was good as well, because it really helped getting us to point. I don't know how we could have done that without the GPS. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure we would have been able to, but it would have extended our trip considerably.
Oh, yeah. Although the other couple we traveled with, they apparently downloaded some map that they need to use the internet for on their phone, and they're like, yeah, we're not using a GPS, and we saw them several times throughout our trip, so they must have done okay, unless they finally caved and got a GPS. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know, but props to them for not using the GPS. But we on our way to our next town, was it Canary? I can't pronounce names.
Killarney? Or is it Kilkenny?
Kilkenny. There we go. Those two K towns, I kept getting confused because they're so similar to one another.
They are.
In terms of the way they discuss, the way they're written down. Anyway, we on our way there, we stopped at these Japanese gardens, because when you're in Ireland, you need to stop at Japanese gardens. But it was really, really nice. I think the guy, if I remember correctly, the history behind it, the guy who had the place, his family was big into like the horse breeding and horse racing, but this one element of the family, when it was his turn to do it, he had a huge interest in Japanese culture, so he wanted to bring these Japanese gardens onto his estate there, and it was gorgeous. It was absolutely gorgeous.
It was. I think it's funny that our first real stop in Ireland outside of Dublin was Japanese gardens, but they were definitely worth stopping.
We met everyone in everyone in Ireland was really, really nice. We only met one jerk, and he happened to be American, and we met him at these Japanese gardens.
Yeah, I mean, the beauty of these Japanese gardens, like each spot, like told a story. So you were being a sweetheart, telling the story as we went along. And at this point, you were reading the story, and this guy comes and he's like, it's just a wishing well, like, move along, move along. Like, I think he was trying to be funny, but he just came off as a jerk.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which he was also part of the same tour group, but he was on the bus tour, not the independent tour.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we stopped there along the. A lot of our stops weren't actually in the towns we ended up at, but they were like
Right.
along the way, which was good because I mean, if we were just stopping at each particular city or town, there wasn't necessarily a lot to do in each of the towns. So there's stuff to do like kind of along the way, and also
also.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Maybe it was the same thing. It broke up like the monotonous of the driving.
Oh yeah, it totally did. Totally did. So we wound up. We headed out, and we wound up in Kilkenny Castle.
Yes, but before we went to the castle, we had lunch
Oh yes, we did.
at a seafood restaurant, which it was your first chips of the trip.
Yes.
I had probably one of my favorite dishes of the whole trip, which was the seafood mac and cheese.
I regret not getting that. I really do.
It was so good. And for those who don't know, traditional fish and chips is served with mushy peas in like Great Britain and Ireland. And your mushy peas, I'm glad that all the mushy peas did not look like your first one, because I would say this was a little bit nicer restaurant. And your mushy peas looked like they were from a can that they just mushed up.
Yeah, they weren't. They didn't.
And they
taste
tasted
very
like
good.
it too. No. And they also treated it more like a condiment. Like it wasn't like a side. It was like an afterthought. Like they put like a little, like a condiment cup with these mushy peas, which, considering how great they were, I mean, it was fine that you only had like a couple tablespoons worth.
I wasn't a fan of the mushy peas. I don't know if I ever really quite warmed up to mushy peas while I was there in Ireland, because I had it a couple other times, and I don't know.
Yes,
I like peas, but I don't know.
Yeah, I had fish and chips several times throughout our trip, and
Yes, you did.
those mushy peas were the least favorite. But I will say there was a couple times where they actually weren't so bad.
Yeah, that's true. There were others that were better, but Kilkenny Castle we went to was our first castle of Ireland. It was cool, but I was mildly disappointed with it.
Agreed.
In so much though, it's like saying like, oh, look at this old structure. Like, look at the Colosseum. Meh. It's cool the fact that it was an old castle. It was renovated year after year, with the family and modernized over time. That was kind of neat. But when I think of castles, when I go to Ireland, I want to see like a castle. Like, this is medieval times stuff that they had there, and this one they renovated time after time. It was more like a Downton Abbey sort of thing than anything else.
Yeah, it wasn't an abbey, but it did kind of give you that vibe. I actually, as strange as it sounds, I was more impressed, I think, with the people in the castle. They were very passionate, and they were like, ask us any question. Like, they wanted you to get, your money's worth out of that experience. They were very helpful. They wanted to tell you the story of the castle, which I greatly appreciated.
Yeah, they were very good about that. There was also a video, which was actually kind of interesting. Like, the story behind the castle is interesting, how the one family had it, and it was passed down. I mean, that's interesting, but walking through it itself wasn't so They had a neat little video that talked about the history of it and all that, but,
Yeah, they tried to restore the castle with original pieces as they could, but at least they were from that time period. Like, you could ask the people, like, is this piece original, like, in this room? And they could point, like, oh, no, that piece is original, but this one was bought at, like, a, flea market or something.
Right. And I think, if memory serves, the family who originally owned the castle, they had to sell off a lot of their stuff. And the restoration people tried to buy that stuff back over time.
Yes, that is correct. Now that you say that.
Refresh my memory, because my memory's playing tricks on me. Kilkenny, was that also the we stayed in that town overnight, or was that not?
No,
Okay.
we went to the town that has the Waterford Crystal.
But that town wasn't Waterford, was it?
No, it wasn't, and I did not write the name down. We By the time we got to that town, it was like
It was
5 or
later.
6 o'clock. Yeah, and I mean, this tour gives you suggestions what you can do each day, but you can't do everything. And we did not make it to Waterford. I am not heartbroken. I know Waterford Crystal can be a big deal for people in the States, but to me, I looked at it. Yes, it's pretty crystal. No, I don't want to buy any.
Right.
The couple that was also on the tour, we ran into them that night. They did not make it to Waterford either. They said they drove around it, but they ultimately did not go in. And we met them in the parking lot, which I think it's funny. And maybe because they were from Alabama. But, we're like, oh, do we have to pay for parking? And like, well, the hotel says they don't really enforce it, but, we're going to pay anyway. And we're like, oh my God, like how much is it? And, we find out it was like €4.50. I think we were both used to Chicago prices. Like I was expecting like €20 to like park overnight.
Right. Yeah. It's like, because roughly the €4.50 is roughly $5, give or take.
Yeah.
So it wasn't that much at the end of the day.
No. I mean, it was just peace of mind paying, the $5 to know that you're not going to get ticketed or towed or, even though they don't really enforce it.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, yeah, exactly. Why chance it with... I'm trying to pull something up here really quickly.
Are you looking up the name?
Oh, it was Waterford. The town
Was
is
it?
Waterford. Yeah, I just pulled up
I guess that actually makes sense. Waterford Crystal being made in Waterford.
I have to say, of all the seaside towns, because Waterford is essentially a seaside town. Was it a seaside town, or is it more of a river bay?
That's a good question. I would say ocean.
Ocean. So, it's a seaside town then. I gotta say, I really liked that town. I don't know what it was, because when we got there, we were looking to get something to eat, and we first went out to get a drink, and we found a pub somewhere. And it was, even though it was a Sunday night, people were up late. They were watching a soccer game.
Oh yeah, this was like what you call like a local bar, like in a small town, though.
Yeah, exactly. And
Bloomers.
Well, yeah, we had the Bloomers definitely one, but like the one guy that was seeing us, and he was like saying something to us, and he was completely unintelligible.
Oh yeah, he was definitely 3 sheets to the wind.
Yeah. I just pulled up Waterford on a map here. It's against the river, so it's not against the ocean necessarily. But
oh, well, there you go.
In any event, I really liked that town a lot, and maybe it was because the first sort of waterside town we were in. But like when we were walking through the town at night, where everything was pretty much closed down, and just you really got a chance to like see what the whole town was. I don't know, something about it just really. I really liked it. I'm sure there's nothing there of any excitement other than the Waterford Crystal, but I don't know. And then we wound up in that other hotel bar for dinner, if I'm not mistaken.
We did. Yeah, it was connected to another hotel because, part of going, to another country is trying food, and we were trying to eat at a local place that wasn't hotel. It wasn't, like Mexican or Italian that we could find in the States. And like the only restaurants that were open were like more American fare, or there was a lot of Indian restaurants too. There was a lot of curries. And we decided to end up at this bar, which the food was okay. I enjoyed most the cup of coffee there. I don't know what cup of coffee it was, but out of the trip, that was my favorite cup of coffee. I probably could have had another one, but it was like getting very late. I'm like, 1 cup is good.
I liked my dish. I thought my food was okay. I didn't mind the bar place. People there were friendly. We just ordered at the bar, and they brought it on out to our table there. So.
Oh, and they had that live singer there too.
Oh yeah, we left right when the live singer was beginning, if I'm not mistaken.
We listened to a couple songs.
Was it?
Which I think because I think he was singing American songs, if I remember correctly.
I honestly don't recall. It's been, my gosh, 2 months since we've been there. So that detail escapes me, but
Yeah, but if you think about, like, the American culture was very big in Ireland.
that is true. One of the things that when we were driving, we came across a radio station that we kept on the entire time because they were pretty good. They had music, they had talk radio, something not too different than what you would find here at the U.S. necessarily. But there's a lot of American songs or a lot of pop songs that are popular in America, and they were talking a lot about American politics, which is I was really, really surprised at, which
I was too.
I mean, in the U.S. here, occasionally you'll hear something about, like, oh, there's an election over in this country, and you're not going to hear much about it unless there's some weird story that just needs to be reported. But with Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton going at it for the election, like, they were always talking about it. I was surprised.
They were every single day in, like, the morning, radio show, the evening radio show, even the people at the bar. Our first day in Dublin, remember that guy was asking us about the American politics.
Yeah. So it's amazing how much American politics affects things even overseas.
It is.
So our hotel that we were at, average, I think it was it 2 beds with...
It was that, because I think one was a full size and the other was for sure a twin.
Yes.
Which I found out later, I think it's a European thing to actually have 2 beds in a room. I don't know why it is. I mean, place to put your suitcase, I'm not sure.
I guess. I don't know if you're traveling with a kid or something. One for your mistress.
Right. I also started noticing a trend in the hotels. They do not have coffee pots in the room. They have electric water kettles, and they have instant coffee in tea bags. And that hotel in particular, their water kettle was nasty. It looked like they had not.
Yeah.
So I really wanted to make myself a cup of coffee. I couldn't do it. It grossed me out. Oh.
Yeah.
It was like slimy in the inside, qualities that you don't want in your teapot.
Yeah, that's definitely so. Speaking of, like, coffee and, like, morning stuff, one thing we haven't touched upon yet was traditional Irish breakfast that we got every single day.
Yes, and since you brought it up, I think our first day in Dublin, that breakfast was probably my favorite.
Yeah, me too.
I guess we should also tell our listeners what traditional Irish breakfast consists of.
Cornflakes.
Yeah.
Like eggs and beans and blood sausage and...
Well, it's black and white pudding, which is a form of sausage. The white one was, I'd say, pretty delicious. The black one was made with blood, apparently. I don't know how much blood is actually in it, or if it's one of those where it used to be made with blood. It was not tasty, but I had to ask my Irish coworkers, I'm like, did you guys like black pudding? And they're like, oh yeah, but like they said they were raised with it, so it was normal.
Yeah.
They also had bacon, which was more like Canadian bacon. They had sausage. They had like another, outside of the black and white pudding, they had another form of sausage. You didn't care for it, but I actually liked it. It was, I'd say, more lighter tasting, like a sausage light. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
And here's where I'm also confused. They served mushrooms and warm tomatoes. And I'm okay with those foods, but they were unseasoned. They were literally like mushrooms. They tasted like out of a can, and I'm not a fan of just warm tomatoes. Unless it's like, sauce, but like picture like a half a tomato just warm. And the servers always asked if we wanted toast and tea or coffee.
Yeah, it's interesting that they always asked as opposed to just bringing it out.
Well, toast doesn't stay hot, and well, yeah, that's true. They could just bring you the toast. The coffees, I had a hard time drinking in the morning because I felt like they just made like a really strong pot of coffee. Now, here's the thing. as many people know, like in the Irish and British cultures, they drink tea with milk and sugar, and they do the same with the coffee. I prefer my coffee black, but they were making their coffee extremely strong to the point where there was a few days where I did put cream in my coffee just to take it down a notch. I'm very passionate about my coffees.
I know. So on the third day, we went to Clonari, and or at least we headed towards that way, and we stopped at a town along the way called, was it Cobb?
I think it looks like it's Cove, but they almost got like Cove, like almost Cove, but it's Cohb.
Right. Yeah.
Also known as Queenstown.
Because the Queen one of the queens of England liked to hang out there or travel there more frequently.
I think she only visited there once. I think it was just the one time, like the Queen came to Ireland, and so they named the town Queenstown.
That's right. They were trying to suck up to her.
I don't know why. I will say, though, that this day was probably my favorite day.
We saw the Titanic exhibit.
We did. That's not the sole reason, but I've always had a fascination with the Titanic ever since I was in third grade, and I found out that the Titanic existed. Here's this ship on its maiden voyage, and it never makes it to America. All the history with it is just fascinating, and there's apparently 2 Titanic exhibits in Ireland. The one in Cove, where we were, and the other in Belfast. Now, the Titanic experience we attended took place at the White Star Line ticket booth. And this was the original ticket booth, and it was the last stop the Titanic made before it set off on its maiden voyage. Mm-hmm. And if you go to the Belfast exhibit, they focus on the sinking of Titanic.
Yes.
So you attend both exhibits. We did not go near Belfast, so we did not have that opportunity to visit the other one. Mm-hmm. But if you go to Ireland, just know there's 2.
Yeah. We weren't sure if this location was featured in the Titanic movie, but
yeah, I don't think it was, because what they explained to us, you stepped outside on like their deck, and it's cool and it was creepy at the same time, because they had a picture of the people. I think it was like 123 passengers they picked up at this port, and it was the last picture of these people, standing on there. So you're literally standing where they stood. Mm-hmm. And they're like, it's creepy and it's cool. And they told us that where they were standing, they could not see Titanic because it couldn't come into the bay. So they had what was like a 15, 20-minute boat ride to get to Titanic.
Something like that, yeah. They had to get ferried out to it.
So I don't think it was featured in the movie. And they didn't mention that, so I'm guessing it wasn't, in the movie. Fun facts about the tickets. I found this fascinating. So if you were a third-class passenger, back then it cost €8. If you were going to buy a third-class ticket today, in our terms, it would be, $40 American, and it would translate to $640. Although I thought they said it was closer to $800.
Yeah, there were some inconsistencies from what they said and the information given here.
Yeah, if you were going to get the first class, back then it was $4,350. Today it's about $70,000. That just blows my mind. I mean,
how expensive that was? Yeah.
Yeah, that's like a mortgage. I mean, our mortgage, is more than that, but not far from it. I couldn't imagine spending all that money, having all that money just for a ticket.
Yeah, that blows my mind. That's more than we make in a year. Well, not together, but individually. It's just crazy.
Yeah. It's what did they say? Lunch alone was a 10-course meal. Mm-hmm. I just like, how is that possible? Like you go through the tour and it wasn't like a grand exhibit, but, they had like a picture of like what a third class room would look like and what a first class room would look like. And then you go through and you watch like another video about Titanic, and then you enter into a room where it's literally filled like with trivia and facts about Titanic. And I stood in front of this TV monitor that just kept listing all the items that were on Titanic, like the 1,000 plates that they had, the thousands of linen, the thousands of forks. Like, it just blew my mind, all the things that were on Titanic.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the first class traveled in style.
Yeah, definitely. So it's mind-boggling, especially for back then.
And also, when you're on the tour, everyone gets their own postcard, and it's a ticket of a real person, like a photograph of a real person's ticket. You get to find out if your person survived. We both did not.
Yeah, it's kind of morbid if you think about it.
Yeah, and I don't think there was any survivors listed from our stop.
So after the Titanic exhibit, we checked out one of the cathedrals was there, and it was literally on top of the town. We had to climb up to it.
We had a stop. We got lunch. Oh no, we didn't have lunch. We had a drink, and it was my first Bailey's and coffee of the trip. And in honor of this podcast, I am drinking a Bailey's and coffee at this moment. I just had to share that. Yeah, I mean, you gotta experience, Dublin, and you have to make sure you drink. So you had another Guinness, and I had my Bailey's and coffee. No, just, my love of coffee, just out there. Yeah, and then we walked up to the cathedral, which we found our way up there. I mean, we didn't have a map, but you just kind of kept having to walk to like the highest point that you could find.
Mm-hmm.
I also think this is the prettiest cathedral that we toured.
Oh, I think so too, most definitely. It was very well. It was the prettiest in the sense that it still had the old style. I think the one we went to later on, where we actually went to Mass, was prettier, but that was more modernized, I feel.
Actually, no. I mean, I think the one here was prettier.
Okay.
Well, agree to disagree.
No,
I don't agree. Wrong.
So after that, we headed off to probably one of the highlights of the trip, I would say, the Blarney Castle and Garden, where we kissed the Blarney Stone.
We did, and they also had like a little cafe, not like a stand, and you could walk around with the Baileys and coffee. So I did not miss my opportunity to walk around with the Baileys and coffee. So I started off my tour with that.
Good way to start off. So the castle there was extremely old. Was left in ruins, which kind of adds to it. With the exceptions, like you could still walk through it. So there's the
Oh yeah, like it wasn't dangerous, but it was like when you think of a castle, I think this is what most people envision.
Yeah, the castle itself, like you walk through some of this stuff, and you're like, how was this a room? How was this a bedroom? Or
right, and they had signs in the rooms like this is the kitchen, and you were like, huh. Like, how did this function as a kitchen?
Mm-hmm.
And there was also a few rooms that I don't think they had signs. Like, there were, like, little rooms off to the side. You remember that? Like, you'd walk up the staircase, and, like, you could exit into a room.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if they were bedrooms or what they were. They're very tiny, though.
Yeah. I'm not sure either what they were, but, yeah, I know what you're talking about. But no, it was cool. Someone got engaged when we were there.
Yeah, you're walking around, all of a sudden you hear like cheers and clapping, and they're like, "Oh, someone got engaged."
Yeah, no, it was a lot of. It was cool. We both kissed the stone. You didn't like my picture of it, so you had to get theirs.
I did. You were not at the right angle, but I will say this though: like when you're kissing the stone, it's further away than what I thought. So they make you, lie down, and they actually have a person standing, or sitting next to the stone, and they grab onto you, and you have to keep leaning back till your lips literally touch the stone. Like, you can't fall through, but they make you take off like your glasses or anything like was hanging, because that could fall through. Like, it was a grate.
Yes.
Like it wasn't solid. Like if something fell, it was gone.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't wash it in between, because someone told us that they wash it in between people kissing it. They do not. Not that it bothered me. I mean, I'm sure, people survive kissing the stone. They did, however, have a bottle of cleaner there. I'm guessing, like, maybe if a woman had like a lot of lipstick on or something and then she kissed
Oh, yeah.
they would probably wipe it. I didn't ever use the cleaner, so maybe they just clean it like morning and night too, or as needed type of a thing.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, it would. They have like so many people they got to get through that stopping after every person to clean it is just gonna slow things down. So.
And the views from the top, though, like where you kiss the stone is at the top of the castle. You could see for miles, at the top of the castle. It was beautiful. I took so many pictures.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I like that. All of Ireland was gorgeous, and we had such excellent weather when we were there. So it was tough to like not have a good view. But the castle is on a property, and so you don't see a lot of roads or anything from this view. So it's just like untapped nature with like this something plucked out of 500 years ago and dropped in today.
Yeah, well, it's called Blarney Castle and Gardens, and the gardens went on forever. If you looked at the map, they had walking paths on there, and I think one of the times listed was like, if you walked the whole path, it was like 2 hours.
Yeah, I could see that. I could see that easily. Easily.
Well, weren't we there for a couple hours?
Oh yeah, at least 4 or 5 hours. Just
no, not at the castle.
No, but just in that general the area there. Because we were at the castle for a little, but then we walked around.
Yeah, we did, but I don't think we got to the castle until like 3:00, which I think they closed at 6.
Was it that late?
Because we were at Cove for so long.
That's true.
Regardless, I mean, we were there a couple hours and we didn't get to see everything. But I'd say, as far as gardens, it was beautiful. Like, you could just walk, and you were always looking at something different. They remember they also had a house on there that was closed, and we couldn't tour it.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if like people actually live there or what the story was, because I know they were also renovating that, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. We weren't sure why we couldn't go, but yeah, it was closed.
Alright, I think that's going to be all for this week. Our discussion on our trip to Ireland was so long that we needed to split it into 2 episodes. So we need to put a to be continued here right now. And next week, the Kiwi and I will be back to discuss the latter half of our Irish honeymoon. See you then. You've been listening to the all-new Culture Cast, one of Chicagoland's finest podcasts.
You're making me fall asleep to death.
Well, I guess there's not much we can do about that. In the meantime, check out our blog at znculturecast.wordpress.com. Send us an email at nick.culturecast@gmail.com. We'd love to hear your feedback, comments, and requests. Follow us on social media. Theme music by bensound.com. This has been a Saltwater production, copyright 2017. Thanks for listening.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Glue! Give me glue!
That's right.